Hi there. Thanks for checking out perfectcaterer.com. My name is Jamie, and today I'm just going to be discussing again one of our articles that we've posted about wedding catering. It's not a super in-depth article, just some guideline things and some quick descriptions of what certain terminology means, things like that. What is wedding catering? Well, this is quite obvious to most people, but I'll describe it anyway. Traditional wedding catering, at least, is when you hire somebody to provide the food, for your reception or ceremony to all your guests. Now, they can also include lots of other things like, tables, chairs, linens, and all this stuff. Some of these wedding catering places have lots of other side gigs like photography and all that they offer you as well. But in terms of strictly food, I'm talking about, it's basically just hiring somebody to provide the food for your wedding event. So usually it's a formal sit-down dinner, maybe the snacks beforehand. Now, what is traditional catering? Because I mentioned just traditional wedding catering. Well, traditional is just like I said, it's just somebody who specializes in just providing the food, linens, all that kind of stuff. Sit-down table service, that kind of thing is what I'm referring to when I say traditional caterer. Now, the reason why I separate them is because there's also food trucks that do wedding catering as well. Typically, not always, but a good portion of it, food trucks who provide wedding catering services only provide like after dinner meals, maybe lunch in the day, that kind of thing. There are obviously food trucks that provide a full service, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But I don't consider that traditional because it's more of a new, recent thing that is happening. So, yeah, you can always hire a food truck for any of the above too. I'm sure there's some that do sit-down service as well. Our food truck, personally, is always just usually snacks or lunch or something. It's never, we don't provide table service or anything like that. It's just they come to the truck, get food, and leave. Now, the average cost for a traditional wedding catering is about $25 to $75 per person. Now, that's without, I'd imagine that probably is because we're not traditional catering ourselves, but typically that's without all the extras. That might include the plate and cleaning and all that, but in terms of like full like table rentals and all that, it's probably not including that. But for the actual meal and then the service and everything else is probably $25 to $70 per person. Obviously, you can get into the hundreds of dollars a plate if you're wealthy and stuff, but I'm just talking about the average wedding. Food trucks, on the other hand, are a little cheaper. Now, this figure is a little higher than I expected it to be. They said the average cost is $25 to $50 per person per meal. Now, in my experience, but like I said, our business is a snack food and a lunch type of food. Maybe not even a snack food, but after when you're starting to get having fun at the party and stuff, that's when we're usually there. Anyway, the average is apparently $25 to $50. Now, I think that the average is probably more like $18 to $35 probably. But that's the figures we came up with, so I just go by the numbers here. So anyway, now again, there might be food trucks that offer table service and other things that push that number up a bit, but usually food trucks are more of a cost-effective way of feeding people at your wedding. Traditional catering is traditionally more expensive, but they do provide a lot of services like plates and dishware that have to be cleaned, bar service, all that stuff. So and waiters, waitresses, that kind of thing. So there's obviously a good reason for it to be more expensive. Finding a wedding caterer, either traditional or food truck, a good one, is very important. Obviously you're going to want your day to go well. You spent a lot of money on your wedding. A lot of people spend a lot of money on their weddings, and it's a memory of a lifetime. So, as usual, I'm just going to go off script here, but what I would like to see everybody do is get a deposit, or make a deposit to secure, especially in the food truck arena, secure them and make sure that they're going to come. Because if you don't put money down, it's easy for them to back off. let's say they find something different or a better wedding to go to 3 days before your event, you notice we're not coming. That still can happen. I personally would put reasons for cancellation in your contract, but it's another issue altogether. Another thing is do your research. A lot of these, if they don't have social media accounts, they don't have any, I wouldn't personally choose them. Everybody nowadays, and I'm not a big social media person, there's a lot of things I don't like about social media, but if they have no history and they've been around for however long they say, years, if they're brand new, you know, come some slack, but still do your research. But if they don't have social media or all the reviews on all the media platforms have been turned off, big red flag, okay? Doesn't mean they can't fake good reviews either. So if they have too many good reviews of perfect ratings, like constant, that's a little bit of a red flag too. I mean, everybody gets bad reviews at some point. Maybe not in the wedding arena because, you know, you're going to be spot on with that. But in terms of if they street park and stuff, they'll have some negative reviews. You're going to get them no matter what. If they get a lot of negative reviews, obviously you don't choose them. But anyway, so some tips on what you should do when preparing to get in contact with a caterer through our site or however you're going to do it. Determine your budget. That's an important thing. Make sure you realize how much you have to spend, or make sure you plan a certain amount to spend. Make sure it's a decent amount. Like I said, depending on what type of catering you get, a traditional or a food truck, you have to have a bit of money set aside for that. Now, don't try to skimp out and get the cheapest you can. Like, I'm not trying to tell people what to do because I really don't like that. If you only have a certain budget, you know, maybe try to find, or a lower budget, I should say, maybe try to find a new food truck or something that's, you know, a little bit lower price and needs to work. You know, I don't want to discourage anybody from trying, but just don't be cheap for the sake of being cheap, because you'll pay the price in the long run. With bad service, bad food, they may not show up, whatever, the list goes on and on. Consider how many guests you have. And this is, by the way, this should all be done before you contact a caterer. To the best of your ability. I mean, weddings change constantly, so you might have a variance in numbers, but try to make sure you have your budget down, the amount of guests you have estimated to come. Even if you estimate the max amount and then you say, well, most wedding caterings and that will have minimums anyway, so base it on the minimum kind of thing, right? You know, just make sure you inform them that it could be up to this amount, and then as it gets closer to the date, maybe inform them of the actual amount. And also, again, they will have their minimums though, so you won't be able to go lower than their minimum, and that's the reason why they have a minimum, right? Research your local caterers. Perfect Caterer does that a little bit. If we get too many complaints about a certain caterer or food truck, we will remove them from the system. Doesn't matter if they're a popular food, doesn't matter if we know them personally, they will be removed. It's just the way it is. Even if my food truck for some reason ended up getting lots of bad reviews, which I wouldn't let that happen, but if it did, I'd remove myself, and that's honest truth. So, you know, we try our best to vet these people, you know, based on their reviews and stuff, but you never know what's going to happen, and unfortunately we can't take liability for that, because like I said, we're a hands-off company. So we submit, you submit, sorry, the catering request that goes through to them directly, and then they respond to you, and it's your guys' job to work everything out. But if we get complaints from customers, enough of them, we will remove them from the system. So that's kind of the way we kind of safeguard you guys, okay? So anyway, if you don't go through us and you're just trying to look for someone to hire, do your research. Especially in the food truck world, I'm not sure about the wedding catering world as much as I am about the food truck world, because we've been doing it for 10 years. But there's a lot of no-shows or a lot of last-minute cancels. Try to defend yourself from that, okay? If at all possible. Now, if it's a last-minute booking, say somebody backed out, or you're just like, you know, darn, we forgot to get the food catered, right? Or after party stuff done, or after wedding, like after your wedding ceremony and stuff, for snacks or whatever. Forgot to do that. If it's last minute, you won't be able to do this, but try to do a tasting. Schedule a tasting, especially for traditional caterers. A lot of them are used to that kind of stuff. I mean, if some of the food trucks options, say it's like hot dogs or something you wanted, maybe not tasting might not be required, but if it's anything significant, try to get a tasting done. Maybe see, you can also go when they're not even expecting you to go. Say, that the food truck's at a food truck festival. Maybe go see what their food's like there, because that'll give you a good example of what their food will be like. Now, if you're hiring a traditional caterer, same thing, make sure what they're providing. Double check what they provide. For example, like linens and all that stuff, and who's cleaning it and who's doing whatever, okay? So go over all that with them. But also with food trucks. Now, if a food truck says they can do your a sit-down thing, sit-down service, make sure that who's bringing the cutlery and all that stuff, because they may not have it. And they may not tell you they don't have it. So if they show up to serve food and they don't have all the equipment because they thought you had all the serving utensils and all that stuff, that could cause a major problem, right? So just make sure you cover all those details with somebody. Like I said, our food truck, and also put that in the contract, by the way. Our food truck doesn't do table service. It's just basically takeout stuff, plastic fork, all that kind of stuff, because we're there when people are at their funnest peak, so to speak, usually. So anyway, yeah, just make sure you got all that arranged. Other than that, it's just do research. That's it. Like I said, we can help you get a bunch of caterers contacting you, but you need to fully do your research on that company, about their reviews and stuff. And like I said, we try our best, but we can't make any guarantees on it, because it's that type of business, right? You just never know. So protect yourself, and remember, the caterer's got to protect themselves too. So there will be things in the contract like non-refundable deposits for you canceling your event, especially last minute. They might put a time frame like 30 days before or something, but typically it's non-refundable. So just do your research and make sure you understand their point of view as well. Okay, hopefully that isn't too long-winded, and I hope to see you guys using our service. Like I said, it's free to use, and makes life a little easier for everybody.